Hello everybody and welcome back to the United Stand. Could there be a huge Anderson blow, a huge Adam Wharton blow as Manchester United's top targets could be in line for a Chelsea move in January, a shock Chelsea move? Is this how a really ambitious club operates? We'll get into that news with Chelsea apparently targeting both Adam Wharton and Elliot Anderson in January. I mean, I don't know how that works when they've already got a midfield of Enzo and Caicedo. But in past transfer windows, they have been very ambitious. They did it with Enzo in a January transfer window. Could they do it again with Manchester United targeting Baleba, Wharton, Anderson? Could this be a big blow for them? Also, some news coming out of January with Zirkzee exiting the club. It's getting closer and closer now that Zirkzee will head off to Roma. But it's also been reported by very good sources that it's going to be a quiet January for Manchester United. Do you go and replace Zirkzee? Do you have to replace Zirkzee? And then that brings in something topical that I really want to talk to you guys about. Mason Mount. Some of the stats on Mason Mount, and you can say bias, you can say it's not a big enough sample size all you want. Look, we're halfway through a season. There is no bias here. Genuinely no bias. It is literally stats, eye test, everything rolled into one. And when you actually delve into the stats a little bit, he's so important to this Manchester United side. He needs to stay fit, and I want to get your take on that. Also, a big debate at the moment is who is Manchester United's best front three? What is the best front three at Manchester United? Who are the best players to play in them positions? What's your best front three? What's Amram's best front three? I'm going to have that debate as well. And Marcus Rashford could be a price boost for Marcus Rashford. He's performing incredibly well at Barcelona. And as much as I was disappointed with Marcus Rashford when he was at the end of his Manchester United journey so far, who knows what will happen in the future. But towards the last year or so he was at the club, I was really disappointed in him because I knew how good he could be. He's showing that now. Hansi Flick has been full of praise for Marcus Rashford. Could there be a prize boost with other clubs getting involved? Going to talk about that as well. But hello everybody, welcome to the show. I really need you to get interactive today because I really want to have a big discussion about this front three, about Mason Mount. And we're going to get into the transfer news, the huge news coming out that Chelsea could be interested in our top targets in January. I want to get into that first. But get your comments in, smash a like on the video, everyone. It is great to be with you. Daniel Thompson straight in the chat. I could see one of them going to Chelsea, but Chelsea's ambition in the market is great, and I wish we had at least half of that. Yeah, I'm going to be so honest. I've seen a couple of clips of Goldbridge I saw a hilarious one from last night about him speaking about the January transfer window, impressions with flying and everything. I don't know the full context, but I did see a clip going round. And for Manchester United to not even attempt to do anything in January, and I feel like I'm quite grounded a lot of the time, when it's not a game day, my head just falls off. And a lot of the United Stand... A lot of the United Stand team always say there should be just like a Beth cam when we're watching the game, either in the stadium or in the studio, because I can lose my head and the comments that come out, it's a game day. But in the week, I feel like I can be quite grounded and I can think about things and I can kind of give a full picture view. But for Manchester United to not try and be ambitious in the January transfer window, I don't understand it. Like, I have been so gracious with Ineos and certain things they've done, I've given massive credit to. The Carrington revamp, great. The way that we're approaching transfer windows is in the summer transfer windows. I think we've got some good targets in. I think we've scouted well. I'm happy with that. The outgoings this season, I thought were really good. But to not be ambitious in January when your manager is struggling, he clearly needs players. And there actually is a very, 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 very big chance we could get Champions League football, which would be a huge boost to this club. I don't think there's any excuse for it. And people will say, well, the targets aren't available. Everybody is available for a price, and if you put the right proposal together, I understand, certain things will be really, really hard to do. I'm not expecting the world in January, but I'm expecting a little bit of ambition. I really, really am, especially when you can clearly tell that there's two big areas in our team that are struggling, and that is the wing-back area and that is the midfield area. Two massively important positions in a Ruben Amorim system. And if you, Ineos, and Manchester United are going to back Ruben Amorim, if you want to keep him in charge, because let's be honest, there's a debate whether Ruben Amorim should continue as the Manchester United manager. If you want to keep him, you've got to go and show some ambition. You really do. Like, two big positions in his system are lacking. And I'm not saying you have to go and pull off both Anderson and Wharton transfers in January. I'm not saying that. But you've got to show a little bit of something. The fact it's now being reported by Simon Stone that it's going to be a quiet January. It's expected to be a quiet January. I mean, Simon Stone he's got really, good contacts. He's a brilliant journalist. He's obviously, in the know that it is going to be a quiet January for Manchester United. And that's a little bit disappointing for me because he clearly needs something. And I'm not even massively in the camp that Amorim absolutely nailed on should be manager. I want him to do really well. And if the club are going to continue to back him and do want it to work long term, they need to get behind him. And I'm all for that. You have to at least invest in him if you're going to stick with him. And someone just put in the chat, he needs to integrate Kobe and buy Semenyo. That would be my advice. But as much as I want him to integrate Kobe, I want Kobe to play. I think most managers in the world, looking at this squad, would play Kobe Mainoo. I think it's so disheartening for a lot of the academy players what's happening to Kobe Mainoo, and I think it's so unfortunate for the fans and disheartening for the fans what's happening to Kobe Mainoo. He's a fantastic player. When you've got feet like that, a touch like that, press resistance like that, you don't need all the legs in the world. I don't think he's as immobile as some people make out. I think he's a brilliant player. And I would love him to integrate Kobe, but Amorim's made it clear that he's one of the few people in this world that doesn't really rate him for what he's trying to do. So you can't force the manager to work with players that he doesn't want to work with. So keep Kobe, and maybe you change the manager if it continues not to work, or you let Kobe go, hopefully on loan. I would really not like to see him going on a permanent when it's not 100% whether Amorim's actually going to be successful yet, and I would hate to lose Kobe. And then eventually you lose Amorim anyway, and you've lost out on a seriously good academy graduate there. But if Amorim stays, and if we're going to continue backing Ruben Amorim and hope it's going to work out, Kobe needs to go in January, and you need to invest in Amorim because he clearly doesn't fancy using him. As much as I like Kobe, I kind of am in that camp now that he needs to go and play football, and Amorim needs someone who he feels like he can trust, that's tailored to the way that he wants to play. But with that, I want to bring in the news because Chelsea have done this before. Chelsea, when they brought Enzo in January, they were not good. They were a failing Chelsea team, and they went above and beyond to secure Enzo Fernandez in January. At that time, might I remind you, it was being reported everywhere. You're not going to be able to get Enzo Fernandez out of Benfica until the summer. It's just not going to happen. Benfica are going to want 100 million plus mid-season. They don't want to sell. It's only a summer transfer. That were the reports at the time, because it wasn't just Chelsea that were interested. Liverpool were massively interested in Enzo Fernandez. United were interested in Enzo Fernandez. There was multiple teams across Europe interested in Enzo Fernandez. And Benfica said, no chance in January unless it's over 100 million. And everyone thought it was just going to go in the summer and it was going to be a bit of an open race. You can never say never, but I don't think if Chelsea bid above and beyond in January and went hard on that transfer in January, I don't think they would have got him in the summer because Chelsea were not in a good position. They were not. But they showed massive amounts of ambition and knew that they were struggling in the midfield and went and got him. And as much as Chelsea has been criticised for maybe just buying too many players, you can't fault their ambition. Sometimes I think it's a bit outlandish, and I do think they have maybe too big of a squad of just good players, not absolutely amazing players. I think the midfield's really good. I think Enzo and Caicedo is a brilliant midfield partnership. But even in the forward line, you look at how much they've spent, and Neto really is the only standout player for me. Neto's fantastic. Cole Palmer's obviously very, very good. João Pedro's good, but I would like to see more from him. Delap's been a shocker so far, really, and I know that's a lot of it is due to injuries and you would expect more from him, but it's not worked out the way they would have wanted. Garnacho is decent, nothing more as of now. Gittins is decent, nothing more as of now. So yeah, you could argue they spent a lot of money, but have they got the creme de la creme? In the midfield they have, and time after time after time, you're going to hit jackpot eventually. Estavo is absolutely fantastic, and he looks like a brilliant player for the future. So I'm not saying I want to completely copy Chelsea's model because I think there's flaws in it. I think the fact that they don't really go for anyone but young players, I'm not on board with that. I think you've got to have a range of players within your team. I really do. I think you've got to have some sort of seniority. I think you've got to have some sort of experience. And I also think they maybe do a bit too much But to have the ambition that they've got to consistently improve their squad, I'd like a little bit of a drop of that, to be honest with you. And it's now being reported that Chelsea are huge admirers of Nottingham Forest, Elliot Anderson and Crystal Palace star Adam Wharton, both also wanted by Manchester United. With Romeo Lavia still struggling with injuries, Chelsea could push for one of these big money midfielders as early as next month. So it's not the fact that it's being reported Adam Wharton won't go till the summer. Elliot Anderson won't go till the summer. The fact that's being reported is not stopping Chelsea from targeting these players as early as next month. And that's what the report is saying. And I just wish, I would love to see it. And it's people act as if you're expecting the world. Well, Manchester United Football Club that should be aiming to be back to the best as soon as possible. I would just love to see a report in the next week. Manchester United want to go all in on backing Ruben Amorim, and they are targeting an Elliot Anderson move as early as January. They know it might not be entirely possible, but they're going to put a proposal together and start the ball rolling in January and try and get it done. Elliot Anderson might say, absolutely not, I want to go to the World Cup. And Thomas Tuchel's told me if I stay at Forest till the end of the season and keep playing the way I am, I'm going to be starting in the World Cup. No, thank you. Adam Wharton might say, I need you to get Champions League football before I commit to that. I get that. But can Manchester United not at least try? Can we not at least, show that ambition to go and get it done? And I'm not even, I don't have full faith in Amorim. I'm going to be so honest. I've made that clear on the shows. From the last 12 months, I am not sure if Amorim is going to be successful at Manchester United. I want him to be, because that means we don't have to get another manager in. I like the way he speaks off the pitch, and that means Manchester United are successful as soon as possible. But if you look at the evidence over the past year, it doesn't fill you with much hope. But still, if the manager is in post at Manchester United, I would like to at least back him. And whether Ruben Amorim stays in the future or not, there's no doubt in the fact that Adam Wharton, Elliot Anderson, they're both top players. That's going to work really under any manager. Both the future, I think, of the Premier League midfielders. So, like I said, Elliot Anderson is my number one choice. And as much as I know it is a difficult deal to do in January, Chelsea, they're targeting these players because Romeo Lavia can't get fit. And they've already got two very, very good midfielders in Enzo Fernandez and Caicedo. I know Caicedo is more of the deep lying player and Enzo does get forward a lot, but they've still got two top quality midfielders, but they're pushing on to get a third. Wouldn't be surprised if they target Kobbie Mainoo, by the way. They have been linked to him in the past. I don't know if Kobbie Mainoo would choose that move just because, again, game time might not be 100% guaranteed. I mean, it's never guaranteed, but, Chelsea's always at... Right now, it's a bit of a sticky one if you're looking for game time consistently, but don't be surprised if Chelsea go in for that, because they are a club that shows that ambition, and we need to show ambition in this January transfer window, because it's obvious the squad is lacking in certain positions. It's Jonathan says, Beth needs to realise nobody's coming to United mid-season with no Champions League football over a club like Chelsea who is playing at a much higher calibre. Well, with that attitude, they're not. Look, you've got to be in it to win it. We're Manchester United, you've got to be in the race, and you've got to be able to put a proposal together. People would have expected clubs with Champions League football to win the race over Mbeumo and Cunha, but that didn't happen. I know it's the summer, and I know it's not midway through a season, but Chelsea didn't have Champions League football when they went and got Enzo Fernandez. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm pretty sure Chelsea didn't have Champions League football when they went and got Enzo Fernandez. They showed ambition. They went and got it done. Champions League is huge when you're attracting players. I completely understand that. Which is why we have to get into the Champions League in the summer. How do you get into the Champions League in the summer? It's a pretty much open race where Manchester United, let's be honest, the performances aren't great. We could go and do it. Show some serious ambition in January and go and help us get over the line. That's what I'd be looking to do. But look, let me know what you guys are thinking, and keep getting your super chats in, because I want to talk about a play that's going to be really important in helping us get that Champions League football. Chris Jackson 4744 says, could we be fourth by Monday evening? Will we be? Let me just double check the Premier League table real quick. So we are on 25 points in 6th. Chelsea are on 25 points in 5th. Palace, well, we could be in 4th. We could be in 4th quite easily, but it just depends on what happens with Chelsea and Palace. So Chelsea are playing Everton at Stamford Bridge. difficult game, but I reckon a draw in that game, to be honest, but Chelsea could easily win. But if they get a draw and we win, then that could put us in good stead. And Crystal Palace are playing Man City at Selhurst. So, yeah, we could be. I mean, there's other teams in and around it. It's a very, very, very open race in the Premier League. I'm just sort of seeing who is in and around below us as well. Everton are there, so if they beat, I mean, they're still 1 point behind us, but if they ended up beating Chelsea, they could be there in and around it as well. But yeah, we absolutely could be. It just depends what happens in the other fixtures. And Everton at home at Stamford Bridge for Chelsea is not an easy fixture, as we would know. We couldn't even do it with 10 men, could we? And Man City, I know they're at Selhurst Park for Crystal Palace. That's a tough game. So yeah, it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see what happens, but we could end up in fourth. But I wanted to bring that in about Chelsea, because I do worry about that club and their ambition. Because when United are doing transfers, we're not the quickest, are we? We're really not the quickest. So competing with a team that is so brash and bold and ambitious, it's difficult. And we need to get ahead of the game, especially without Champions League football. We need to get ahead of the game in January and start moving. Just quickly talk about Zirkzee as well. So it's coming from Sky Sports that Roma have opened negotiations to sign Manchester United and Netherlands Joshua Zirkzee in January. This keeps coming about. I'd be very surprised if this doesn't happen. Roma and Joshua Zirkzee, it's been rumoured since about September now. I think it will happen. Even with Sesko injured, he's not exactly lit it up. And I'm a big Zirkzee fan. I actually think if he got a consistent run of games, I think he's a good quality player and he's decent with the ball at his feet. Not quite sure if he's suited to the Premier League, though. That's one thing I would note. It also says it is increasingly likely that Evan Ferguson's loan spell at Roma is due to end prematurely. Italian publication La Gazzetta dello Sport are reporting that the club are working on sending him back to Brighton in January, despite his year-long deal and €40 million option to buy. Let's hope that Baleba doesn't end up the way that Evan Ferguson's ended up, because Evan Ferguson can still absolutely have a great career. He's still young. Everyone thought Evan Ferguson was going to be the next Harry Kane, and you know what? He might still be in the future, but it's not panned out the way you would have hoped. And Baleba was touted as the next Caicedo, and Evan Ferguson is an example of how quickly your kind of trajectory can change. Baleba's not having the best season this season, and you don't want the same thing to happen, really, especially when United are interested in him. And I think he's probably the most likely midfielder we'll end up going for, because it is easy, despite his drop-off in form. So let's see what happens with that. But it's that, like, 2 + 2 is 4. Evan Ferguson being sent back to Brighton and Zirkzee consistently being linked to Roma. Zirkzee being very successful for Bologna in Serie A. Like I said, Zirkzee's a bit of a baller, but I think he's suited to that Serie A, a bit slower. Rick, you'll hate me for saying that. It's a brilliant league, but it is notoriously a bit more, a bit slower than the Premier League. It's got other aspects that make it a great league, but it is a little bit slower. And I think Zirkzee would thrive in that slightly slower pace of Serie A. So I can see that happening, to be honest with you. And he's clearly not absolutely massively important to Ruben Amorim, because he's played when Sesko's been injured, but he's not been, a nailed-on starter. I think he's got someone to offer to Manchester United, but he probably just wants a little bit more, and I can see that happening if he truly, truly pushes. Club sources are predicting it'll be a quiet window in January, which may be the case, but it'll be shaped by what happens at AFCON. The last 2 weeks before the deadline shuts could turn out to be quite busy, and that's from Simon Stone. Kobbie Mainoo and Joshua Zirkzee are the most obvious players who will leave the club, either on loan or permanently, before the transfer deadline. If either did, the chances are that replacements would be needed. I mean, we keep hearing that. So, will we get a replacement in for Zirkzee? I wouldn't be absolutely convinced. If Mainoo went, we'd absolutely need a replacement. We cannot go into the rest of the season with just Bruno, Casemiro and Ugarte. And you could argue Mount can play in the midfield as well. You can't do it. Mainoo, you'd have to get a replacement in, unless you're going to bring someone up through the academy, which Amorim seems reluctant to do at the moment. This moment in time, he clearly doesn't feel like anyone's ready. So, yeah, we'd need replacements, but it's going to be a quiet January, and we've literally been linked to no one but Conor Gallagher. So, and for me as well, I know Goldbridge really likes the idea of getting Conor Gallagher in. It's just, it's like, for me, getting Conor Gallagher in is like when Amorim makes a sub in a game. Like when he brings Dallow off for Dorgu. It's like for like. He's not going to get me off my seat. It's not anything that's going to change the fate of our season. He might get used more than Manu does, yeah. He'll definitely get used more than Ugarte does. But he's not going to start over Bruno and Casemiro. He's just not. So it doesn't really get me off my seat. Elliot Anderson gets me off my seat. Adam Wharton gets me off my seat. Angelo Stiller gets me off my seat. Conor Gallagher doesn't really get me off my seat, to be honest with you. João Gomez, I would be much more inclined to go for. Conor Gallagher's a decent player, and I think as a squad player, I'd welcome him with open arms at Manchester United. I think he'd be an excellent squad player. But he doesn't want to be a squad player, because the only reason he'd leave Atletico Madrid is for more game time. He comes off the bench for Atletico. He's not a starter, but he comes off the bench. Why would he move from Atletico to United to just come off the bench again? So, yeah, for me, it's not a massive one. Joseph Stead says, have you not seen the story about us signing Sergio Ramos? I've seen it. I don't believe it. I just don't believe it, guys. I know Golbage spoke about it a little bit on the morning show. I just do not see that happening at all. It's not something that Ineos have showed that they want to do. It seems like a Woodward type signing rather than a new regime type signing. I just think it's headlines when the news is quite dry. I really don't see Sergio Ramos coming to Manchester United. Obviously, one of the best defenders we've seen, excellent in his day. But I don't think it's the route that United should go down. It's a central centre-back, one game a week, maybe you could do a job, but I don't see United going down that road. I would absolutely rather go down the road of showing ambition in January, getting into the Champions League and going for a Mark Gahey. The future. 25, 26, I think he's around 25, 26. Let me just absolutely double check that. He's 25. Captain of Crystal Palace, could be future captain of Manchester United if he came in. Premier League proven, going to be starting for England in the World Cup in the summer. Just a fantastic player. That's where we should be aiming for, really, when we're going into the centre-back situation. And I don't think we need a stopgap from January until the summer with a centre-back. I think that's something we could approach in the summer, absolutely. But yeah, I do think the club are maybe setting low expectations for January with that coming out from Simon Stone. It's going to be a quiet window. Like I said, hopefully our targets don't get taken before we can get to them, and hopefully it doesn't cost us when it comes with Champions League. I'm not naive. I know we're not going to go for anyone massive in January. It's clearly been very much briefed that we're not. But I just hope it doesn't cost us getting Champions League football. You can make some really, really positive signings in January. You really can. Look at this. Bruno Fernandes. Do you remember the impact he had when he came in January? Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was really under pressure. Pogba was injured at the time. Did McTominay get injured? We brought Bruno in and he was just... He got the fans off the seats and he turned the season around for us. He was fantastic. You really can make a huge difference if you invest in an important area of the pitch in January. You really, really can. Anyway, I want to ask you this question now. What is Manchester United's best front three? Please get your comments in straight away. Get your comments in straight away. Who is your best front three at Manchester United? And while you're thinking about it, I'm going to bring you in this. I want to talk about Mason Mount. And I know it's been touched on previous shows. I know Goldbridge has touched upon it. But I have the feeling that he's not the biggest Mason Mount fan. I am a huge Mason Mount fan. And it's not even just opinion now. The evidence backs it up. And I want to bring in this. And I want you to kind of give your opinion on it and take this into consideration when you're picking your best front three for Manchester United currently. So, I saw this from Sky Sports, and to be fair, I saw this after I put my tweet out on X, but I'll bring this stat in first. Manchester United have a 71.4% win rate when Mason Mount starts in the Premier League this season compared to a 25% record when he doesn't start. So 71.4% win rate when he does start, 25% win rate when he doesn't start. When Mount starts, and I went and did my research and it's correct. I researched it a couple of times to make sure that this was correct. When Mason Mount starts for Manchester United this season in the Premier League, 16 points from 21. And not only that, United actually play good football. And I'll read you out the games in a second. We play good football. They've been good performances. 16 points from 21. 71.4% win rate. When Mason Mount doesn't start in the Premier League for Manchester United, 9 points from 24. And performances overall, apart from, I would say, one, have mostly been awful. He makes us play football. We're a better team when he plays. Now, let me go through them. So the games that Mason Mount didn't start. Brentford, horrific loss. I think we can all agree on that. Chelsea, 10 men, good 20 minutes, but then it ended up being a pretty average win, but still, we got the win there when he didn't start. City, awful loss. I think we remember that one. Forest, a pretty poor draw. Spurs, an average draw, you would say. Everton, absolutely abysmal, lost to 10 men. West Ham, terrible, terrible, terrible draw. And then the one good one in there, which is where Mason Mount didn't start, was Brighton. We scored 4 goals and it was a big win and it was a really good performance, so fair play. But the only convincing game that he didn't start was Brighton, you would say there. And then the games that he did start, Arsenal, opening game of the season, absolutely dominated, but we did end up losing that game. But a lot of people would still say it's one of our best performances of the season, even though we lost. Fulham, good first half, but in the end, it ended up being quite a wasteful draw. Burnley, excellent first half. Mount off at half-time. Fortunate in the end to get the win, but we still won and he started the game. And in my opinion, we played a lot better when he was playing. Liverpool, brilliant win. I know that Liverpool have kind of turned out to have gone off the boil, but it was still a brilliant win, especially at Anfield. Sunderland, dominant win, where Mason Mount was arguably man of the match. Palace, not a great one, but Mount scored the winner, and it's a really tough place to go. And then Wolves, another dominant win where Mount scored as well. And I know it's only Wolves, but, you know, there's some really other tough fixtures in there, like Liverpool, Sunderland, Arsenal, and Mason Mount in them games really, really turned up. So, like I said, in summary, that to me tells me, the actual evidence tells me that Manchester United are a better team when Mason Mount is fit and firing. We've just got to hope he stays fit. Then, I put this in the forum group chat, right? I put in the forum group chat, me, Tull, Ricky, Mauds, Usman, you know, Kev, we're all chatting about it. And Tull works this out. And this is what he's worked out from them stats. 2.28 points per game with Mount starting. So 2.28 points per game with Mount starting compared to a 1.12 without him starting. 1.12 points per game finishes you around 16th or 17th in the league with around 42 points. 2.28 points per game finishes you around top 2 in the league with 86 points. I think it is only fair to say that if he was fully fit and played every single game, I think it's very unlikely that this team would finish on 86 points. But we are pretty much halfway through the season now, so I think that is a fair enough sample size to say that is a big, big contrast for when Mason Mount plays and when he doesn't. Mic drop. And that's my argument as to why he's in the best front three for Manchester United. Oh my gosh, black moustache. I mean, I don't just block people for an opinion, but I feel like doing it because it's such a silly opinion. Just admit your player FC. I've literally just shown you 5 or 6 minutes worth of evidence as to why it's not player FC and why it's evidence that we play better with him. I'm not player FC. I am players who play the best FC. Look, Cunha, going into this season, was one of my players to watch and he was one of my favourite United players going into this season. I loved him at Wolves. I was so excited for him to come in. But if you ask me my best front three right now, he doesn't make it. If I was player FC, I'd say Cunha has to play, because I really like him. But we're not getting the best out of him right now. I still think he's a good player and I think he will come good at Manchester United and I think he will smash it. He's got that sort of mentality and I know he's got the quality in him, but I'm not player FC. I'm what's best for Manchester United FC. That is what I am. So, yeah. Brian B2907 says, what is this Sergio Ramos rumour going around? Yeah, I spoke about that. Until there's any more credible sources talking about it, I don't think that it's worth really talking about. I really don't see this happening under Ineos. It's everything they've kind of trying to move away from. It's selective games, it's from a small pool. We're halfway through a season nearly, so it's not a small pool. It's like a decent sample size, to be honest with you. But anyway, I'll tell you my best front three, and I'll tell you Mark's, because I did put this in the group chat as well, and I got Mark's from that. And Mark's best front three was Bruno, Cunha, and Mbeumo as striker. And to that, I would say, enjoy the 25% win rate. I'm joking. I still think that's a very, very good front three. He said he wanted to clarify that he'd play Manu behind in Bruno's position. My current best front three is Mount, Bruno and Mbeumo. I'd play Mount as left-sided 10. I'd play Mbeumo as right-sided 10. And I'd play Bruno as a false 9. That's my best United front three. Cunha absolutely can get into that. I think he's very talented. But as of now, Mount is outperforming him. Therefore, he gets into his spot. You have to play a dribbler like Mbeumo in there to stretch the play. I think you waste the majority of Mbeumo's abilities if you play him as a centre-forward. Bruno's shown before he can be a brilliant false 9. He's good at holding up the ball. He's got an excellent finish. He's allowed to be a lot more creative in that position. I'd have him dropping in there. That'd be my best front three. I'd have Manu in the midfield. That's how I'd like to play. It'd be much easier to construct a team if I was playing a 4-3-3 or a 4-2-3-1, but I'm working it in Amrim's current position. That's what I would go for. I want to see what you guys think. No striker. We don't play to Sesko's best abilities yet. I'm excited for Sesko to come back in though, because I do think Mbeumo has missed playing off Sesko. I really do think Mbeumo has missed playing off Sesko. Sesko's been good at kind of making them flick-ons, and Mbeumo running in behind. It's kind of worked really well. So I'm excited to see Sesko back for sure, and he could absolutely make his way into that best front three. But as of now, I think that's currently United's best front three. Jason Katera says the best front three is Mbeumo, Højlund, Mount. Losing Højlund is an absolute travesty. Sesko, if the assignment is the current squad, Sesko could end up getting Bruno's position. You could, let's see what happens. But that's for now. I would rather have Bruno's playing up front and Manu in behind than Sesko. But Sesko could very easily change my mind. I think Sesko's got a lot of qualities. And like I said, I actually think Mbeumo is missing Sesko. Kai says Martinez is our future DM. Big fan theory, but I don't think Martinez is going to be a defensive midfielder at Manchester United. If I'm wrong, then I'm wrong, but I just don't see it. Rob McCormack says it's night and day. Robert, we know that. People will start to wake up eventually. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion, and haven't we all been wrong on stuff? But I just do think when the stats are that blatant, you've got to kind of take note of it. Nick P says, everyone knows Matt is a decent player, but how many Ferraris can we keep in the garage with... Garage? Did I turn American then? Can we keep in the garage with dodgy engines? Great stats, but what's the point? The point is stayed fit for the majority of this season, so hopefully he can do it to the end of the season. And if he is fit, we need the best out of him because he's one of our better players. But Nick, I completely get you. We really, really, really need to keep him fit, and he needs to keep himself fit because, like I even said, and I don't want to go on a massive tangent about this, but Mount, people were judging him. You can't even get back to your best self until you've played. And this is... People get onto Manu for this. Mount was constantly in, out, out for ages. He basically had 2 or 3 years when he was injured consistently. And even when you're back for a few games, you're not going to see the best out of that player. He'd play one game back from injury after like months out and everyone would be like, see, I told you he's rubbish. You need a run of games to get yourself fit, sharp and firing. No one, after having a lot of time out from match fitness, match sharpness, playing regular football, can just instantly turn it on like a light switch. It's like when people expect Kobe Manu to come on and be prime, Modric, when he's literally just not played football basically since the start of the season. He doesn't have match sharpness or fitness. He'll be playing, at Carrington, he'll be in the gym constantly and he'll be as fit as he can be, but you just don't get the same feeling from doing that unless it's competitive football. Mount now has stayed fit for a continuous amount of time and you're starting to see the best out of him. You're starting to see glimpses of how good he was when he was at Chelsea and winning the Champions League. He needs to keep that up. You're not going to see prime Kobe Manu off a 10-minute cameo. He needs a run of games, just like when Mason Mount, when he's been in and out the team through injury, isn't just going to come back and immediately be prime Mason Mount, Champions League Mason Mount. He needed a bit of time to get up to speed. He's got there now. It's took a long time. Let's just keep our fingers crossed that he can stay fit. Carlo Montana says, injury-free Mount is a baller. Fingers crossed. Yeah, exactly. This will be Mount's longest run of games without an injury. Well, let's hope so. He played 90 minutes for the first time in his Manchester United career as well the other day, so let's see. Smash a like on the video, everyone. You know, getting Martinez in the team, we saw how good he was the other day, is huge. Having Mount fit is huge and starting. You know, just getting your best players on the pitch is a really good thing for Manchester United. Last but not least, I will bring this in. Marcus Rashford again made an impact off the bench for Barcelona in their 2-1 win over Frankfurt in the Champions League. Manchester United loanee helped provide a new lease of life into the team as they battled back through a Jules Koundé brace to win it. This is what Hansi Flick had to say. In the first half, Rafinha was everywhere and maybe that wasn't the best, but his attitude is good. In the second half, we tweaked some things and Marcus was important to give width and stretch the lines. Barca boss Hansi Flick said after the game, praising Rashford. So Rashford's doing really well. He's sort of like, he's turned into like a playmaking winger as well. I saw one of the crosses he put in for one of the goals and it was fantastic. So if he keeps performing at Barcelona, you know, you never know. Other clubs could come in for him. You know, Bayern might come in for him, PSG might come in for him. We can only hope. And, you know, I asked this question on Twitter, what's United's best front three? And a few people said Rashford, Mbeumo, Mount or whatever. I don't think he'll come back to the club, but I'm glad that he's doing well away from the club. And when I see him playing well, it just makes me happy because it reflects really well on Carrington. And also it just puts more pressure on Barcelona to trigger that option to buy. And I know the option to buy is quite low, but you get the wage off the books. Or if they don't, it gets more clubs interested, which is really, really important. With Rashford, it was never about his ability. It was about the environment, the work ethic. Was he in the right headspace at Manchester United to perform at his best? I think that move to Barcelona was the best thing he could have done. And yeah, the better he plays, the better chance we have of getting more money and investing that back in. So good luck to him and hope he keeps doing well. But look, everyone, that's all we've got time for. But before we go, I do have to tell you, and I have to tell you because we've got so many good things coming up across the United stand, and that's football. Ben Jacobs, tomorrow at 2 p.m. I'm going to be asking him about this, the Chelsea interest in Elliot Anderson and Adam Wharton. I'm going to ask him a little bit about Amorim as well, January transfer plans. Make sure you are there tomorrow, 2 p.m. B&B show is back after having a week off last week. We missed him. Bournemouth presser, 1:30 p.m. on Friday. That's going to be interesting. Ruben Amorim speaks to the press. Been getting a little bit frustrated recently. Let's see what he has to say. Hopefully we get a big update on the AFCON players, Ahmad, Mazraoui and Mbeumo, because we really do need them on Monday night and it's not 100% confirmed they're going to be there. So stay tuned for 1:30 p.m. on Friday. Big update hopefully on Ahmad, Mbeumo, Mazraoui and whether they will be going to AFCON before Monday or after Monday. And then, this is the big one. Friday, it's 7:15 p.m. It's Union Berlin versus RB Leipzig, live watch-along on That's Football. And me and Mauds are going to be actually doing it from the studio. So please, guys, make sure you join us. It's our first Bundesliga watch-along from the studio. We need all of the interaction we can get, and we would love you guys to, you know, come along with us and support us in that. You will be not only listening to me and Mauds, which, who doesn't want to do that, eh? You'll be listening to our commentary. But we've also got so many things lined up in the game. And the best and most important thing is you get to watch the game along with us. Live match footage as we are there in the studio. Please make sure you come and join us for that 7:15 on a Friday night. Where else would you want to be on a Friday night, guys? I can't think of anywhere better. And last but not least, you might as well wear your Christmas jumper along with it on a Friday night. Link is in the description below. But look, everyone, thank you very much for watching. Really do appreciate all the interaction. I actually think people are coming round to Mount a little bit more. I'm seeing a lot of Mounts in the starting front threes that I've got into the comments. And I mean, a lot of people still putting Cunha in there, which I think is... The thing is with Cunha, I think Cunha is a fantastic player. I just don't think we're playing him to the best. What I can't get behind is people who put Cunha in as a number 9. Cunha is so much better behind the striker. He's not a number 9. If you're going to play Cunha, you're dropping Mount out of the team. Because he's so much better as a left-sided 10. Or you play Mount false 9 and you play Cunha in and behind him. Cunha needs someone to play off. So you can play Cunha and Mount together, but you'd have to play Mount at 9 and Cunha at 10. He's just much better at 10. But let's see how the season progresses. Who can nail down them spots? With Mbeumo going to AFCON, I'm sure Cunha's going to get a lot more game time. Now he's fit, and let's hope he can spark himself into what we know he can be. But look, everyone, thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned for everything that we've got coming up. Have a lovely Wednesday, and I'll see you on the next one.